Slip of the Knife by Denise Mina. Narrated by Jane MacFarlane.
Chapter 1. Naked. 1990. Terry Hewitt had never been as afraid as he was now. It was being naked that terrified him. He was stripped of all identifying marks, untraceable, ready for his grave. Terry had been arrested in Chile, seen a woman necklaced in Soweto, stood on the edge of a riot in Port-au-Prince. But here, lying naked in a shuddering car boot, heading into the dark outskirts of Glasgow, he was paralysed with fear. Whimpering, his knees tight against his chin, he was aware of how hopelessly exposed he was. He couldn't even cup himself. His hands were bound behind his back, his wrists swelling around the tight binding. The plastic sheet beneath him was scalding his skin. A rough sacking hood over his head restricted his breathing, and tiny fibres found their way to the moist back of his throat, making him gag. The muscles on his neck hurt from the throttle hold that had made him pass out. His eyes ached where blood vessels had burst. The attack had come from behind, as he stood alone and half-drunk on his front step. It had been a good night until then. The celebration of a book deal. The advance from the publisher hardly covered his and Kevin's expenses, but a big book of glossy photos and text was expensive to produce. It was Kevin Hatcher's suggestion to cash the entire 200 cheque and take it to the casino, and they had worn their least crumpled suits, worried that they might not be smart enough to get in. In the event, they were overdressed. It was a Thursday night, so the other gamblers were serious players, wearing minimum swank to get through the door, scuffed leather shoes, jackets that had seen better days. A couple of Chinese women wore faded silk jackets and sat stone-faced, uplit from the tables, their eyes fixed on the dealer's hands at all times, making swift plays. No one celebrated a win with a grin and a cheer the way Kevin and Terry did. Real players met a win with an anxious gesture, a straightening of their chip stacks, eyes searching for the next move. Terry and Kevin were obvious tourists. Terry drank whiskey and coke, Kevin sipped his lemonade. They lost for a while, and then showed their lack of courage by stopping after a big win. They were 4 quid up on the 200. They bought a dried-out Havana cigar from the bar, smoked it between them, and stayed on, watching the serious players concentrate on the turn of the numbers, willing...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?